It is time, people, to start Unit 6 of AP Microeconomics. We're going in. What's up, people? How we doing? What's going on out there? You know? What's going on? How we doing? Epic music. For epic learning. For epic content. We are here. What's going on? Welcome on in to the live stream, people. Alright, enough of that. Chill. Alright, people. So, today we're going to start public goods. We were going to step back and kind of review a little bit of Unify, but I kind of want to just keep going. I kind of want to start Unit 6 a little bit. And Unit 6 is not all that long, right? And then we should be pretty much done with content by, I would think, like Wednesday next week, and then I'll give you guys time to do your Unit 5, Unit 6 test, right? We're going to combine both Unit 5 and Unit 6, and I'll give you guys that, next week, because right now you guys are probably, working on, the Unit 4 test, right? I noticed that I think 3 or 4 of you guys got to finish, but most of you guys have yet to start your Unit 4 test, so you're going to have time to do so today. Today, I am not... oh my gosh, we're in macro right now. I am not going to give you a problem set. There's no problem set today with public goods. I just want you guys paying attention, listening, and then I'll show you some practice with it and whatnot, like things that you might see in regards to it, and then the rest of the hour you can use to complete your Unit 4 test. But people, I do have bad news though. I do have bad news. You guys want to know the bad news? Hey, cut the music. People, it has been determined, word is, from administration, the school, and I'm talking about teachers, have decided to mandate a final exam. Right? You have to take a final exam. Just for the record, Mr. Moore voted no, but I guess overwhelmingly, teachers voted to have a final exam to be mandatory. But just know I was on your side, right? I did not vote for a final exam. So I have to give you some sort of final exam, right? Now, what is that final exam going to look like? I don't know, right? But I got to give you something, and it's going to be 10% opposed to 20% of your final exam. But yeah, that's the news. So I got to figure that out, right? Because kind of towards the end of next week, you guys are going to be doing a Unit 5, Unit 6 test. So I think I have an idea for the final exam, but it'll be a surprise. All right, it'll be a surprise. But I want you focusing on Unit 5, Unit 6, and also your Unit 4 test, obviously, right now. Don't worry about the cumulative final exam. We'll figure that out. Music back on. All right. Anyway, I keep going to macro. All right. Let's see how upset you guys are over here. Can it be one question? Maybe. Can we just watch a movie for the final? No. What's your favorite? No. Mr. Moore, tell them you'll quit. No, I can't. I have no other place of employment. No Wolf of Wall Street. No. That's neat because you can get a 50% on your exam and still end up with a high A if you did well the rest of the semester. Yeah, that's pretty good. We should just give your. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, Nina. You guys want to do that? You want that to be your final exam? But people, that's too close to the holidays, right? I'm not going to be able to. I got to do that now. I got to do it today or tomorrow. I got to get on the gift shopping. Oh, yeah. A quiz about someone's personal life is worse than a quiz about curriculum. Final exam is today. Yeah. Remember that, Cam? That was scary. I was like, I will quit. I publicly put it on there. I at Mr. Frey, I was like, I will quit if my students get less than 80%. You guys got an 80.2. Oh, that was the scariest thing ever. I'll never ever do that again. I have learned my lesson to not trust students. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, just expect that all your teachers are going to give you some sort of final exam. if we have a easy final exam in this class, people, you have to promise me you don't, get upset with another teacher that they're giving you a real final exam and be like, Mr. Moore's doing this, right? You can't do that. You can't do that, or else we're not going to be friends any longer. You understand? All right? You'll mean nothing to me. All right, but we'll see. And people, I might just give you like a huge final exam, right? 10 FRQs, from all the concepts we learned about. You got to upload your graphs, right? We'll see. But anyway, all right, let's get to some attendance in the chat, people. Some attendance in the chat. Attendance in the chat today is, what was your favorite childhood show that you loved to watch when you were growing up? I will start off with mine. Mine was Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold. SpongeBob was like when I was like in middle school, so I won't say that. I would say like Hey Arnold, like Rugrats, Rocket Power, Ed, Ed and Eddie, right? People, my graph like is a... What's this graph doing in my way? What the heck? I gotta move this down a little bit. Aha, now I'm in front of the graph. Look at that. You see that? Alright, let's get to some of your responses here. The classic Tom and Jerry. That is classic. That's pretty old, Red Boston. That's pretty old. Ben 10. I don't know what that is. Chowder, I don't know what that is. iCarly, I do know what that is. Mr. Moore likes iCarly. No, I didn't say that. I just said I know what it is. Alright. SpongeBob is a classic. But again, SpongeBob, like the first season of SpongeBob ever, I was like in 5th grade, I want to say. So like it was kind of later on. Can Hans please stop barking? Hans! Hey! Alright, that's probably the first time you ever heard Mr. Moore yell. Star Wars, The Clone Wars. Yeah, I love Star Wars, people. I'm a passionate Star Wars, connoisseur, but I've never got into anything else other than like the movies. Dora or SpongeBob. Yeah, Dora's pretty around the same time as SpongeBob. My little brother is 10 years younger than me, and like, yeah, he grew up on Dora and SpongeBob. Phineas and Ferb. What is that? What is that? I don't even know what that is. Wild Kratts or Phineas and... You said the same... Jenna said the same thing. I don't even know what that is, people. iCarly, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. What the heck is going on here? Codename Kids Next... What is that? Curious George. That's old school. Okay, this is the third person to put Phineas... What? Phineas and Ferb. I'm probably not even saying that right. People, I've never seen that cartoon before. 2007, I was a junior in high school. Sophomore in high school. Something like that. Avatar, The Last Airbender. OMG. Avatar, yep. Wizards of Waverly. Man, people, you guys make me feel old. I thought we would have some sort of commonalities here, but we don't. The Sopranos. That's not a kid show. Is Hans okay? Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's not a kid show. Mickey Mouse. Phineas. Thank you for the pronunciation, Cameron. Appreciate it. I do not know what that show is, though. I did not know what that show is. I don't even know what it was on. I'm looking at it right now. This guy's got like a triangle head. An isosceles triangle, right? Is that what it's called? Something like that. But anyway, it is time. I'm back. Dead weight loss shaped head. Ah! That's great. Now why is the camera acting up again? I just fixed it. Stay focused. Stay HD. Peaky Blinders, people, that is not kid shows. Stop it. Stop it. Alright, anyway, alright, people, let's get on to some content, right? What you guys came here for, right? You guys paid the big bucks to receive a high level of education here, while I'm here to deliver that high level education, right? Because we're going to be learning about public goods today, alright? Which is going to be pretty sweet. Public goods, right? Public goods. So, Unit 6 is all about market failures and the role of government, right? So what is a market failure? We're going to talk about here in a second. And then if the market does fail to provide the socially optimal, quantity that people actually want, it's going to call for the need of government to fulfill, right, and produce more quantity, or maybe remove quantity if we're overproducing quantity by the free market. All right, we're start right here actually. So that's the idea. So that's what Unit 6 is all about. Unit 6 is all about what is a market failure, what are some examples of market failures, right? When the free market fails to deliver, right, like a quantity and price that we want, socially optimal, and then, how does the government, fix it, right? That's what Unit 6 is all about. So Unit 6 is pretty fun. So what is the free market? What is this thing out there called capitalism, right? The capitalism, in a nutshell, basically means no government, right? It means no government involvement, free market, right? Markets left unchecked. But, the problem with that is if you have a free market, right, and markets are unchecked, right, and you have, entire capitalism, right, capitalism kind of destroys itself, right, because eventually, again, if there's no government regulation, you're just going to have, monopolies that occur, right, and monopolies would not be the goal of the free market. The goal of the free market is, have a lot of choices, right, lots of quantities at low prices, right, competition, right, so again, that kind of goes back to economic systems, right, you can't have capitalism without government, right, even though, like, they're opposite, right, and, you can't just only have government, you got to have some level of free choice and free market, right? So America is capitalistic, right? Again, it's on a spectrum, right? I would say the U.S. is definitely more capitalistic than most developed countries, like Europe and sorts. But no country has a free market, absolutely not, because it wouldn't exist, all right? It wouldn't exist, right? You have to have government. That's what the whole point of Unit 6 is, right? Why do we need government, right? Because sometimes we have positive externalities, sometimes we have negative externalities. If you didn't have government, you wouldn't be able to have public goods, and we need public goods, right? Is the idea. So anyway, so the invisible hand, right, is the idea of Adam Smith, right? And he basically said, left alone, buyers are going to naturally, talk with their money, right, and try to find the best good at the lowest price, and then sellers trying to make a profit are naturally going to compete and produce, bring goods to market if there's some sort of profit motive, and buyers seeking their own self-interest and sellers seeking their own self-interest is going to cause a socially optimal price and quantity to be brought to market, right? No deadweight loss, no surplus, no shortages. Markets will be most efficient if left alone from the government, right? And up to this point, right, I think you have noticed that when we have used government involvement, it generally has caused some level of deadweight loss, right? But we've been using government involvement in markets that should not be having government involvement. It is basically what's happening. Now I'm going to show you guys markets that there's a deadweight loss if the government isn't involved, right, and how the government removes the deadweight loss, essentially. So kind of flipping the coin a little bit here, right? So yeah, the whole idea of the invisible hand is competition, right? And with competition, it's going to breed, lower prices. It's going to improve quality over time, more choices over time, right? More firms over time, right? Competition is good. But again, without government, right? The bigger fish is going to eat the smaller fish, right? And you're going to have, one firm producing everything, Amazon, whatever, right? But that's the idea is you really need, government to ensure that, characteristics of capitalism can actually exist. So they kind of can't. It's like salad dressing, right? Like the like the one you got to shake up, right? The salad dressing you got to shake up, right? If you just had like the oil part of it or like the seasoning part of it, right, it would taste like poo-poo, right? You got to mix it up, right? You got to have both government and some level of capitalism to exist, right? So does the free market ever fail to meet society's needs? Absolutely, and that's what a market failure is. A market failure is when the free market's left unchecked, it's going to fail to produce the allocatively or socially optimal level of quantity and the socially optimal price. All right, it's when the invisible hand doesn't work. So private markets will not efficiently bring about the allocation of resources all the time. Sometimes, right, but not all the time. So what's the result? The governments can step in and help reduce the problem. So how does the free market fail? There's 4 examples. First, the free market, if left alone, will not provide public goods. So in a second here, we're going to talk about what is a public good, what are the characteristics of a public good, public goods versus private goods, and why public goods, the most efficient way to bring about a public good to the market is via taxing people, right, and then producing that good, because that good innately is non-excludable and non-rivalrous, right? So it's best for the government to produce that good or service because the free market won't provide the socially optimal quantity and price, or just not even produce the good at all because it's not profitable, or there's no way to prevent free riders, etc. That's what we're going to be focused on today. Another market failure is called externalities, right? When there's a third-person side effect, right? So the best example of that is smoking, right? Smoking cigarettes, right? If left alone, if there was no government involvement, people would be smoking cigarettes in restaurants, right? Which actually used to be the case when I was a child, right? And it hurts the third party, right? Like if I'm at a restaurant and someone's smoking cigarettes next to me, right? I didn't choose to buy the cigarettes, right? I didn't choose to produce the cigarettes, but I'm going to be negatively hurt by, the smell, right? I'm gonna have to go home and wash my clothes, right? Cigarette butts are the #1 most littered item in the world. We've already talked about that, right? Tons of examples of externalities, right? If someone is texting while driving, they get in a car accident, I'm late to work, right? Without government, that's just going to happen all the time, right? Government says, hey, you can't text while drive. You'll receive a fine. We're going to de-incentivize you for texting while driving. It's going to help reduce, traffic jams, right? That's the idea. So, externalities is when the free market's left alone. There's going to be an added cost, or perhaps, the government's going to step in and produce more of it, right? Like vaccines are like that, right? A lot of people benefit from vaccines even though they don't get vaccinated. Right, so what the government's going to do is they're going to incentivize people to get vaccinated, right? The subsidized flu shots and things like that, so we get more vaccines rather than less vaccines, because vaccines are a good thing. Number 3 is monopolies. We're not going to cover monopolies because we already did, right? We know that monopolies are inefficient. We know that monopolies are bad. They're going to underproduce and they're going to charge higher prices. There's obviously a deadweight loss. We want more quantity and we want lower prices, so the government's going to break up monopolies. Right, or they're going to regulate monopolies. They're going to put a price, ceiling on the monopoly, or whatever. Right? How do you miss the most important one? Health effects. Well, if you smoke, right, it's not really a third-person side effect, right? If you just get bad health, right? Secondhand smoke would be the third-person side effect, or if that person's receiving some sort of government assistance in terms of medical care. Right, and I got to pay for that because they chose to smoke. Right, is the idea. So that is a good point there, Jenna. And the last one is unfair distribution of income. Right. So what is unfair and what is fair? Right. Obviously, you guys are going to have your own opinions and debate that. Right. Is it okay that 1% own just an insane, enormous amount of wealth and the middle class hasn't moved, etc. Right. Is that fair? Is it unfair? It's beside the point. The whole point is, and this is kind of macroeconomics, but for a macro economy to be healthy and to be functioning, right, you have to have a large amount of consumer spending. You have to have a large middle class, right? You have to have people, able to buy the CEO's product, right? So if left alone, obviously, right, kind of like monopolies will occur, there's going to be widespread income inequality. There's going to be very, very have-nots and those that have a lot of wealth, right? So that's the idea. So when the government introduces subsidy or taxes and makes them produce that, yeah, exactly. If the government does anything to remove deadweight loss, anything to increase quantity, right, that'd be how the government's correcting the market failure, or just eliminating the monopoly, right, removing their barriers of entry so that market can get more competitive, right? And our government does that, right? We have antitrust laws that break up monopolies if they're deemed to have, monopoly power, right? So these are examples of market failures. If the free market's left alone, we're not going to have the quantity that we want, right? So the government's going to step in and allocate resources more efficiently, right? So we're going to be focused on public goods today. Would higher consumption damage the environment? Pollution. Pollution is a negative externality. Pollution is a negative externality. Yep, we're going to start. We're going to start talking about externalities tomorrow, and externalities are one of my favorite things to talk about. But yeah, so public goods, right? Public goods. I got tons of funny videos I got planned for you guys tomorrow, which is pretty cool. So public goods are goods that are going to be produced right, by the public sector, right? That's why they're generally called public goods. But a public good doesn't have to be produced by the public sector, like in and of itself, right? Public goods have characteristics that are going to make it unable for private firms to produce it, right? They're just not going to be profitable goods. So the only way to get these essential goods that we need in our economy, right, is going to have to be provided by the government, right? Like streets, like roads, the fire department, police department, schools, right? I would argue healthcare is more of a public service, a public good. National defense, obviously, natural resources, right, like public parks and things like that, are going to have to be provided by the public good. Some things are not supposed to be profit maximized. Essentially, is the idea. All right. So what is a public good, right? What does it mean for a good to be a public good? So this is a definition of a pure public good, right? A pure public good has two characteristics, right? First, innately, right, it has to be non-excludable, right? For a public good, or for a good to be a public good, it has to be non-excludable. So what does it mean to be non-excludable? It means the good itself, right? People could still, receive the benefits from the good or the service without paying for it, right? Free riders, right? We're talking more about free riders in a second, but that's essentially what non-excludable means, right? So a service, right? More so national defense is more so like a service, right? National defense in and of itself is non-excludable, right? If someone doesn't pay their taxes, will they still receive the benefits of national defense? Yes, right? National defense is non-excludable, right? If you don't pay your taxes, we're not going to be like, hey, whatever country, you can invade right here, but just don't, make sure you don't damage the other nearby houses, all right? You can only invade this person right here, right? No, right? So if someone doesn't pay for national defense, they can still get it. That's the idea of a non-excludable good. We're going to do more practice with non-excludable. But for a good to be a pure public good, it has to be non-excludable. And it also has to be non-rivalrous, right? Shared consumption. In other words, if someone consumes the good, right, or uses the good or service or whatever, right, it can't diminish someone else's ability from using that same good. So my example is fireworks show, right? If you go to a fireworks show and I add another person to consume, right, the fireworks show, that in no way diminishes your utility, right, your ability to enjoy the fireworks show, unless it's like a bunch of kids and they're being annoying and they're shouting, right, and running in front of you. Well, yeah, in that case, that's a little bit rivalrous, right? But if I just put another person, in the grass, and you're watching the fireworks show, them being there is not going to diminish your consumption of that good or service. So a public good has to be, one that, in and of itself is non-excludable and also non-rivalrous. Because if it's non-excludable and non-rivalrous, it's going to be very, very difficult for the free market or private firm to make profit off of it. That's the idea, right? If a good is non-excludable and it's also non-rivalrous, there's no way to profit off of that good, right? Because, again, free riders, right? There's no way to profit off a good if there's no ability to charge people prices, right? And ensure that they actually pay for it. There's no way to incentivize someone to buy the good if they buy the good and they don't own it, right? They can't consume it and it's still there for someone else to consume, right? Makes it very difficult for the free market to profit off a good that is non-excludable and non-rivalrous. So let's do some example real quick, and then I'll show you public versus private and other types of goods that are out there. So a sunset, right? A sunset. So we're doing what? Excludable or non-excludable. So a sunset most definitely is non-excludable, right? Do you have to pay to see the sunset, right? Maybe you might have to pay for parking if it's a really nice place, but generally most beaches in the U.S. are public, right? So if you want to go to a beach and enjoy the sunset, it is non-excludable, right? There's no way anyone can charge you to see the sunset, right? So in and of itself, it's not excludable, right? Using the recycling bin or a trash can provided by local government, right, is again non-excludable, right? If you don't pay your taxes, right, no one's going to be standing next to the trash can ensuring that you've paid to use the trash can, right? So again, this is another example, right? Like trash cans, it'd be really hard for the free market to bring trash cans to market, right? We need trash cans, right? We want to reduce littering, right? If trash cans were provided by the free market, right? Like the service itself, right? Like maintaining them, right? And putting them out there and taking them out, all that, right? You would have to have someone literally standing next to the trash can charging you every time you use the trash can, right? De-incentivizing throwing your trash away. So it's best for the government to provide those goods and just tax people, whatever the cost is to provide trash cans. A road can be a lot of different things, right? A road, a road really is non-excludable, right? If you use the road, in other words, like no one can. You can't be charged to use a road unless it's a toll road, right? Like roads here, obviously, right? You can use the road, and you don't have people at every intersection, charging you to use the road, right? So in that case, it's not excludable. But obviously, there are roads that are excludable, right? There's roads in Ohio and other states, obviously, that are toll roads. They're private roads, and in order to pay, they can exclude, right? They can exclude you from using the road if you don't pay. So roads kind of could be excludable or not excludable. Depends if it's a public road or a private road. Again, we've already talked about the idea of national defense, right? National defense is the best example of a non-excludable, service. There's no way that we can really make sure everyone pays for it, for them to get the service, right? There's always going to be people that are not, imagine if national defense is private, in other words. That's what I'm really trying to get at. If national defense was private, in order for you to get defended from other countries, right, you had to pay into it, right? There's just no way that would be efficient. So the best way is just tax everyone equally, right, and then provide the good equally for everybody. Isn't the road excludable if you don't pay because you can't drive if you're in prison or not paying your taxes? Well, that's true, actually. No, if you don't pay your taxes, you can still have a driver's license. Yeah, you can still have a driver's license. I guess if you really do a lot of tax fraud, right, you can go to prison for that. But in general, if you don't pay your taxes in a given year, right, you just got to pay back taxes, and you can still drive. But a road in itself isn't excludable or non-excludable. It depends on the road, and I'm gonna talk about it here in a second. I'll show you a road could be either of the 4 different goods. But anyway, so rivalrous or non-rivalrous, right? Rival or non-rival. Fishing, right? So this is if someone consumes the good, does it diminish other people's ability to consume the good, right? So fishing is rivalrous, right? If I overfish, if I fish and take out 10 fish from the water, right, a pond, there's less fish in the pond, right? If I consume the fish, right, it's going to lessen the ability for you to consume the fish, right? Yeah, imprisonment. Although sometimes, some people commit insane tax fraud, right? And they don't get in trouble at all. But anyway, sunset, right? Is this rivalrous or non-rivalrous, right? If someone sits next to you watching the sunset, does it diminish your ability to watch the sunset? In most cases, probably not, right? But again, if it's a bunch of annoying kids running around and they're on the beach right in front of you, right? They're standing in your way, then in that case, that would be rivalrous, right? That'd be the difference. If you buy a shirt from Goodwill, is that rivalrous? Yes, right? If you buy the shirt, that shirt's going to be taken off the rack and no one else can buy it. Private goods are generally rivalrous. Is internet rivalrous, right? Internet, in most cases, is rivalrous, right? Not as rival as most things, but if a bunch of people jump on the internet, right, it's going to lessen your internet speed, probably in most cases, right? So it does diminish your ability to consume the good, but to some extent, right? At Michigan State, using Michigan State internet, right? In the buildings, I could add 100 people to it and I would still probably get the same internet. So it kind of depends on the internet, right? In that case, if it's rivalrous or non-rivalrous. A chair obviously is rivalrous, right? If you sit on the chair, it's going to lessen my ability to sit on the chair, right? Some of these examples are silly. Apples are obviously rivalrous, right? Satellite TV, I would say, is non-rival, right? It is non-rival. If someone else subscribes, right, and pays for satellite TV, it probably will not lessen your ability to view your own subscription to satellite TV, right? So cable, right, things like that are pretty non-rival, right? So some examples, right? Hamburgers are obviously not a public good, right? Hamburgers are both excludable and rivalrous, right? Can you get a hamburger? If you don't pay, can you get a hamburger? In most cases, no. You have to pay to get a hamburger, right? So it's definitely excludable. Is a hamburger rivalrous? Yes, right? If I take a bite out of the hamburger, that's less hamburger for you to eat. It is definitely rivalrous, right? A hamburger is a private good. Satellite TV is not a pure public good because it is excludable, right? You can't get satellite TV if you don't pay, unless you like do it illegally, right? But like for the most part, in order to get satellite TV, you got to pay for it, so it is excludable. However, we already said it was non-rivalrous, so it kind of is a public good, but it's not, right? Because it does not have the characteristics of non-excludability. AM, FM radio, do you have to pay for it? No, right? So it's non-excludable, and then is a rivalrous, right? If someone is listening to the radio, does it lessen your ability to listen to the radio? In most cases, no, right? So AM, FM radio is a pure public good. It's a pretty good example of one. National defense obviously is a pure public good. A street light is kind of is a pure public good, right? Because again, a street light is non-excludable, right? Again, you don't have to pay for it to use it, right? It's going to be there. Is it rivalrous, right? It's not, right? Like if someone uses the street light, does the street light go away? No, right? But like you could be so far back in the line where like you can't see it. But street light is a pure public good, right? It's really non-rivalrous, non-excludable. What about this class, right? Is this class non-excludable, right? If you don't pay your taxes, can you still take the class? Yes, right? Or pay for it, right? Even if it was like a private thing. And then non-rivalrous, right? If one student is taking the class, does it lessen your ability to take the class? Well, we have students like Chase that sometimes they like he likes to say things, and it kind of like lessens everyone else's ability to learn, right? This is more so last year in classroom, right? Remember when Chase was like, saying things like out loud, and then I had to stop my lecture? That was pretty rivalrous, but no, for the most part, no, right? For the most part, no. I mean, kind of, right? I only can have 34 in the class, right? I can only have, again, limited class size, right? So like if 34 people take it, that's going to lessen someone else's ability to consume it, right? So it is pretty rival a little bit, right? Again, it kind of depends. So I like this little chart. If you take college AP Micro Introduction Classroom, you're required to know all four goods, but in this class you need to know just between public and private. So again, a public good is going to be non-excludable and non-rivalrous, right? So like AM, FM radio, fireworks, national defense is really non-excludable and non-rivalrous, like in every way, right? A private good would be like anything you have to buy, and if you buy it, it lessens the ability for someone else to have it, right? Any sort of good that you can think about purchasing. But there's goods that are in the middle, right? A club good, which again you do not need to know, but again I want to show you examples of like sometimes it can be both, right? So it's neither a private or a public good. A club good would be like higher education, right? You have to pay for college. It is excludable, yes, right? But is it rivalrous? For the most part, no, right? Because if a lot of students want to take the class, they just increase the class size generally, right? So it is really non-rivalrous. Does welfare technically make food pure public goods? No, because like welfare is capped, and like you can only buy certain goods with it. But like a gym membership, right? Is it excludable? Yes, right. You can't walk into the gym unless you have a gym membership. But if I use a machine, does it lessen your ability to use a machine? No, right? Unless it's like sweaty and I didn't like clean it up, and like then you don't want to use it. I don't know, but like the machine's not going to go away. It's still there. You might have to wait a little bit, right? But it's definitely not really rivalrous. And then common pool resources that are called, again, you don't need to know that term, but like a fishery, right? Is rivalrous, right? If I take a fish out of the water, is one less for you, but it's not really excludable, right? You can't hey, you can't fish on this lake if you don't pay, right? Generally, you can just fish on the lake, but right, we have fishing licenses, right? We have fishing licenses, so we don't have this problem over here, right? So someone doesn't overfish and lessen the ability for other people to fish, right? So is the idea. So you just got to know the difference between private and public goods. So we talked about the road, right? A road could be either of the four goods, right? An empty freeway, a freeway where there's no one on it and it's provided by the government, so like you don't have to pay for it and you can still use it, would definitely be a public good. A congested toll road, a congested private road, would definitely be excludable because you got to pay to use it, and is rivalrous, right? The more people on it, the less and less you can move. An empty toll road would be excludable, but it's not really rivalrous because it's empty. If I add another car to it, it's not really going to lessen your ability to use the road. And then a congested freeway is rivalrous, right? If we keep adding more and more cars to it, it's going to lessen your ability to use the road, but it's free, so it's not really excludable, right? So it kind of depends. Yeah. What's up, Chase? Anyway, so a pure public good is a good that is non-rivalrous and non-excludable, and people, only 76% of students got this question right, believe it or not. All right, anyway, let's talk more about public goods, right? Imagine if fire protection was excludable, right? Let's take some public goods out there and let's see what would happen if they were provided by, the free market, right? So this is a funny video. We're gonna watch this video real quick because it actually happened. I think it was like in Georgia or Tennessee, and what they did is they voted to privatize the local fire department. So you cannot get fire protection unless you paid the annual, service fee, right? So basically, if there was a fire, the fire department would show up, and then they would check the records, right, and see, did you pay or did you not pay? And if you did not pay, right, you obviously would not receive the service. So in this case, fire service was excludable, right? So it's called laissez-fire, right? Get it? Laissez-fire. So let's watch this video real quick. Let's turn the TV on, Get the TV going. People, you gotta let me know if the audio is good, because there's just so many things going on here. I don't know how to balance the audio with audio in audio, Does that make sense?
Firefighters don't respond despite the homeowners' plea for help.
Is that good?
That's what they want, $75, and they don't care how much they burn down.
Imagine your home catches fire, but the local fire department first won't respond, then watches it burn.
That's exactly what happened to a local family tonight. A local neighborhood is furious after firefighters watched as an Obion County, Tennessee home burned to the ground. The homeowner says he offered to pay whatever it would take for firefighters to put out the flames, but was told it was too late, and they wouldn't do anything to stop his house from burning. Each year, Obion County residents must pay $75 if they want fire protection from the city of South Fulton. This family did not pay, and the mayor says if they don't pay, they're out of luck. Local 6's Jason Hibbs joins us now with our top story tonight. Jason.
1 second, people. It's like an old there, that'll look better. Okay.
We've talked about this issue before. A home's on fire, but the family didn't pay the $75 fee, so the fire department doesn't respond. What finally got those firefighters to leave the station?
Well, Jennifer, this fire went on for hours because garden hoses just wouldn't put it out. Now, it wasn't until that fire spread to a neighbor's property that the fire department would respond. It turns out the neighbor had paid the fee.
I thought they'd come out and put it out, even if you hadn't paid you $75. But I was wrong.
And because of that, this is all that's left of Gene Kranick's house. They called 911 several times, and initially the South Fulton Fire Department would not come. The homeowners say that the fire started right here in these two barrels. It then slowly spread to a shed and then on to the house. They say it took a total of about 2 hours for that fire to get from here to there. The Kranicks told 911 they would pay firefighters whatever the cost to stop the fire before it spread to their house.
When I called, I told him that. My grandson had already called twice, and whenever I got here, he thought maybe I could get something done. I couldn't.
It was only when a neighbor's field caught fire, a neighbor who had paid the county fire service fee, that the department responded. Gene Kranick asked the fire chief to make an exception and save his home. The chief wouldn't. We asked him why.
The house is burning to the ground. Why didn't you guys respond?
City manager will make a statement in the morning. Y'all can see him in his office.
We asked a few more questions. He would not answer and called police to have us escorted off the property. Police never came, but firefighters quickly left the scene. Meanwhile, the Kranick home continued to burn.
If we could talk for a second.
We asked the mayor of South Fulton if the chief could have made an exception.
And anybody that's not inside the city limits of South Fulton, it's a service that we offer. Either they accept it or they don't.
Things my mother's, my grandmother's, my great-grandmother's were all there in that house.
Friends and neighbors say it's a cruel and dangerous city policy, but the Kranicks don't blame the firefighters themselves. but blame the people in charge instead.
They're doing their job. They do what they're told to do. It's not their fault.
And Jennifer, to give you an idea of just how intense the feelings got in this situation, soon after the fire department returned to the station, the Obion County Sheriff's Department says that someone went there and assaulted one of the firefighters. Now, right now, there's no word on who the people involved were, but lots of people in the community really upset about the department's decision to let this home burn.
I think it's safe to say that things got pretty heated. Anyway, moving on. All right. So yeah, some things are meant, to be public, right? Some things are just easier, just tax everyone, an equal amount, and then just provide that service for everybody, right? This is a lot easier to do it like that, right? So that's the idea. Imagine the firefighters just awkwardly standing there watching, and I know it's a tough situation. But anyway, right, so that's the idea, is they couldn't put the fire out because, like, then it would sort of de-incentivize people from, privately paying for the private, fire service, right? So that's the idea of a free rider, is when you can benefit without paying. So that's why, some goods cannot be provided by the free market because, if there's no way to profit off of that, right? So like, free rider comes from the term of people just jumping on a train, right, riding for free, because you had to pay for a seat, right? If they're not paying for a seat, they can still get the service, the transportation, without paying for a seat. Thus, no one pays for a seat, right? Thus, no private firm profits off, producing the train transportation. So, the best way is the government, taxes everyone, provides free public transportation. Well, not free. I mean, you're being taxed on it, and then makes it illegal to, like, ride on the train without being in a seat, or without having a ticket for a seat. Is the idea. So what's wrong with free riders, right? How can the government fix it is again, use tax dollars instead and just produce the good, right, itself. That way there's no one can, ride for free. No one can get the service without paying for it because it's mandatory to pay taxes. That's what a tax is, mandatory payment to the government. Or, you can make some things illegal, right? Again, you can make it illegal for them to be on top of the train and make it, they have to pay for a seat, and that would help out the private firm in ensuring that free riders don't exist, is the idea. So let's try this for the final exam, huh? Right? It says the final exam. I am willing to give 100% on the final exam to everyone in the class. If you guys all give me $1,000, right, I'll give you guys all 100%. Right? You guys want to do that? All right. So everyone in the class is going to get 100%, even if you don't pay. As long as I get $1,000, I don't care who it's from, right? You guys will all get 100%, right? Got it? All right, so who's going to contribute? Who's going to contribute? Nobody. Tyler's like, I'm not paying. like I don't want to. Like, I already have a good grade. Like, I don't need to. Right? I don't have that money. Right. So that's the idea, right? Like, of the free rider, right? Like, if it's not going to be brought to market, this service, right? I guess you can call it, is not going to be provided by, because people could get this without having to pay, right? So it's ultimately not going to be paid for, right? There's no way for me to make profit off of giving you a final exam because there's an incentive to not pay for it. So thus, I will not do this for you because, again, there's a free rider issue going on. Again, that's the idea, right? That's why some goods are not going to get provided by the private market, because there's no way to exclude people who do not pay, right? So the solution is everyone pays a mandatory tax. So we take the total number of students, which I think is 20, $100 or $1,000 divided by 20. 1,000 divided by 20, what's that, like 50? 50 each? Everyone pay 50? Sounds a lot easier, right? But again, like, this obviously is an unethical, like, thing to do. But, like, wouldn't that be a lot easier, right? Just make everyone pay 50, and then you get the good, right? Rather than, like, as long as I get it, right, everyone can use it, and then obviously some people aren't going to pay for it, right? So, yeah, $50. Chase is going to take one for the team here. All right, so let's end with this, right? So again, why does the free market not provide public goods? Because generally there's no way to profit off of them, right? There's no way to exclude people who don't pay for it, or it's just non-rivalrous in nature. So The easiest way to provide these goods is just tax everyone a mandatory payment. You have to pay for it, and then provide the amount of goods that people are willing to pay, right? That'd be like, good government, right? Can the government prevent wildfires in the U.S. forever, right? No. Ensure that no one ever speeds on the freeway ever? No. Create a research station on Mars, right? Stop pollution. We can do all these things, right? But it comes down to cost versus benefit analysis, right? We could really make sure no one ever speeds ever again, right? We could put, a police officer on every single street, but is really that, is the benefits, equal to the cost there, right? The cost of having like so much more police officers just to make sure people don't speed occasionally, right? It's not a big deal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna provide the amount of goods, or like restrict the amount of quantity or whatever, right? Based on people's willingness to pay is the idea, right? The marginal social benefit has to be equal to the marginal social cost. So that's the idea. Is government's going to use supply and demand, right? So what is going to be the demand for public goods, right? What is your demand for public goods, right? Your demand for public goods is your willingness to pay taxes, right? Think about a good that you want locally, right? For me, I need new roads. I need new roads, and I need sidewalks, right? There's not even sidewalks everywhere here in Fenton. Right, like if I go on a run and I run like through downtown and kind of like, there's some parts where the sidewalk just ends, and then I'm like running in someone's yard, or I'm running in the street, and then the streets here in Fenton are very, very bad. Like everyone always votes for no taxes here in Fenton. So like there is potholes everywhere. And as a matter of fact, when I take my dog on a walk, he occasionally stops, Hans, to drink out of like a pothole, and you can literally see all like the car oil and all that like nasty stuff in there. Because there's so many of them, right? And then also streetlights are a big problem in Fenton. The streetlight that I literally, like the one right outside my door, flickers. It turns off and on, just randomly. It doesn't work, right? When it's nighttime, it turns off and on. Kind of, I don't know. The light bulb's like out, right? And there's some parts of Fenton that aren't even lit up, like even like in high trafficked areas, right? If I go on a run at nighttime, it's sometimes like it's hard to see, and I gotta like navigate potholes and everything. The whole point is like I am willing to pay higher taxes, right? Yeah, you guys can't go there, but I am willing to pay higher taxes. Me, Mr. Moore, I am willing to pay higher local taxes to get better roads, more sidewalks, fix my street lamp outside, things like that. That's my demand for public goods. I'm willing to buy public goods, right, via paying more in taxes, right? And then obviously some people, right, some people don't benefit off of those things, right? Some people don't, drive on the road maybe, or some people don't go on walks, right? So maybe, and obviously they're not going to be willing to pay those taxes. I know that my property value is determined a lot by the local schools, right? Actually, I live right across of elementary school, right? So again, I'm willing to pay more taxes if that makes that school better, because it's going to cause more people to move to the area, thus increase the property of my home, probably greater than I have to actually pay in taxes. So I'm willing to pay more taxes, right? That's the idea. So, but obviously, right? Is Mr. Moore willing to pay taxes for? I don't know. I'm sure there's something that like some people are willing to pay for and I'm not willing to pay for, right? Is Mr. Moore willing to pay more in taxes for the police department, right? Probably not, right? They have the craziest police cars ever I've ever seen that are like insane, right? That looks like they get new police cars every year. No, Mr. Moore is not anti-police, right? But I'm just saying, like, I would not be willing to pay more for the police department, right? Things like that, right? So, but everyone's different, right? So you take the collective willingness to pay, and that's going to be the society's demand for public goods, right? And then the supply for public goods is going to be how much does it actually cost to provide those public goods, right? How much does it actually cost the government to hire, a private contractor to fix the roads, right? To fix the street lamps, to fix the sidewalk and things of that nature, right? That's the social cost, right? That's how much is actually going to cost taxpayers to produce the goods. So just like anything in this class, people, we're almost done, I promise. I know we're taking the whole hour, but we're going to produce where MSB equals MSC. So this is the idea, right? Say we have two people, living in this town, very simplified. We got two people living here. Obviously everyone's got different, needs and wants, right? Adam is, so we're talking about a new park. People, I'll be willing to pay a lot for a dog park, right? There's actually a really nice dog park that's actually provided by like a private person. But anyway, everyone has a different willingness to pay. So Adam is willing to pay a little bit less than Jill is for a new park, right? They both clearly want a new park. They're both willing to pay more taxes for new parks, right? But Jill is willing to pay a little bit more, right? Maybe, Jill has a kid and Adam doesn't. I don't know, right? But, so if we get one park, right, the creation of a new park for the government to produce a new park, Adam's willing to pay an additional $4 and Jill's willing to pay an additional $5. So the additional benefit, the societal benefit, the willingness to pay for the first park is $9, right? That's kind of what's going on here. Okay. The second park, additionally, right? So if the government wants to make another park to provide 2 parks, the additional willingness to spend for the second park, Adam's willing to spend an additional $3, Jill's willing to spend an additional $4. So these 2 individuals are willing to pay an additional $7 if we get an additional park produced, right? And you can see obviously the law of diminishing marginal utility, right? They don't really want 5 parks. They don't really want 4 parks. I mean, they're willing to pay a little bit more for that, but the first park is really essential. They're willing to pay a lot of taxes for the first park, right? The second park, they're like a lot, right? They're willing to pay a little bit more in taxes, right? Marginally. So if the cost of each park is $5, right? Every time the government produces a park is $5, how many parks is the government going to produce? Right? How many parks is the government producing, and also how much are they going to raise taxes by in order to produce those parks? So society is willing to spend $9 on the creation of the first park, and to produce the first park it only costs $5, right? So government obviously is going to produce the first park, right? They're gonna pay for that park to be created, right? The second park, right? Society is willing to spend an additional $7, and it only costs an additional $5 to make it. Yep, the government's gonna produce that park. They're willing to spend $5 in taxes. It costs $5 to make it. Yep, but they're not going to produce 4 parks. So how many parks are going to be produced? 3, right? Because they're not going to produce 4 parks because marginally, right? If this 4th park is created, right? Society is only willing to spend an additional $3 on that park, right? But it costs $5 to produce it, right? Government's going to recognize that society isn't willing to pay those higher taxes. And the cost of building the park is higher than what they're willing to pay in taxes, so the government's not going to produce, that park, right? The biggest problem with this is if government produces too little or too less of what society actually is willing to pay, in taxes, right? That's kind of where, situations arise where people are upset that they're paying more in taxes if it doesn't actually benefit them, right? But if society is willing to pay more in taxes because it benefits them, and it's greater than the cost of producing that, the government's going to keep producing. They're going to keep producing up until a point where MSB equals MSC, but once MSC is greater than MSB, right, they're not going to produce that park, right? So in this case, each additional park is constant, right? Each additional park is constant, so will they produce it? Yep. Will they produce it? Yep, but they're not going to produce the 4th park because the 4th park costs 5, and they're only willing to spend, 3. Right, so they want the first park, they want the second park, they want the 3rd park. Government's going to make 3 parks. But they're not going to make the 4th park. They're definitely not going to make the 5th park. Is the idea? All right. All right, people. I got to at least see you guys today. We got to go to Google Meet. Our time is short. I got to see you guys. I got to say hi to you guys. Right. So hop into Google Meet just real quick for me. All right, real quick.